Well, hey there. It's been a while since I did a video. I mean, not much has been going on in the world, I guess. Oh yeah, that. Apparently somebody in China coughed and now the whole world went completely insane. So I've been doing some work around the house, building some things, tidying some things up. I made a shed, that was pretty cool. And then I leveled off a spot for an above ground pool. Apparently the Easter Bunny thinks that our kids should go swimming this summer because everything else is closed. Now the problem is here in Minnesota, it's still the middle of May and it's still 55 degrees outside, which means we're not going to be swimming anytime soon. So I came up with an idea. I'm going to build a solar water heater so that we can swim earlier in the year and continue swimming later in the year. The goal is I'm going to take all these parts and be able to plug it into a little water pump, circulate the water through the tubes in this little contraption. It'll heat it up by the sun and spit it back into the pool. I'm hoping like 20 degrees warmer. So we'll see. That's what we're doing today. Don't burn the house down. So my rough design is going to be 4 foot by 8 foot, which is one big sheet of plywood. And then because 2x4s are cut into 8-foot segments, I thought that'd be pretty easy to do. I'm going to take these 2 pieces of 50-foot, these are irrigation tubes. They're just black irrigation tubes. I'm going to uncoil them, one on each side, left side, right side. I'm going to paint this black, uncoil the tubes on each of them. I'm going to bring in water from this side. It's going to go through the tubes, and go through the other tubes, and then it's going to come out this side. Now the theory is if this whole thing is black, when the water runs through it, it's going to heat it up. That's the goal. Now I'm not going to show you step by step or time lapses on this because quite frankly, I'm the only one filming this and that's going to take forever. So I will jump ahead to what I'm going to do in step 1. Here we go. I went ahead and set up the piece of plywood on 2 of the 2x4s, running the entire length. Now obviously when this is done, I'm going to flip that over and that'll be the inside, but for now I'm going to attach that using some big all-weather non-rusting deck screws. So I'm going to screw those in and I'll come back to you. I attached the outer 2x4s to the plywood while the plywood was, I guess you could call it, face down. Now I'm going to flip it over so that I can put the center beam in there. The frame is officially complete. I have the center beam in there as well. And I also did a kind of a rough-in fit with the plexiglass on top. And it looks like it fits for the most part. I think we're doing good. So now it is on to painting the entire thing black. First of all, I need to apologize for the extreme amount of noise going on out here. The neighbor's doing construction in his driveway and I have 2 kids floating around here. So it's kind of loud. But anyways, I'm halfway done painting the inside of this, and let me tell you, spray paint was the wrong choice. Anyone tells you spray paint is easier, they are lying to you. This would have been so much easier with just a brush and some paint. But I wanted to show you something kind of cool. So it's been sitting here in the sun, it's about 6 o'clock at night, and I decided to take a temperature on kind of what we're looking at inside the wood right now. So my instant read thermometer, this shows 98 degrees on the wood. If you come down to the black, it's 134, 135 degrees. So that is a 35, 36 degree difference. That is a big difference. And that's obviously what we're trying to capture with the black on here. That's what we're trying to capture with this entire contraption, is the sun's rays to heat the water up. So 35 degree amplification just by painting it black alone. That's pretty cool. So I thought I'd share that with you. Now to finish spraying the rest of them and keep my finger cramping up here. So the tubing, which has just been on the back of my truck, it's registering 135, 130, 128. And it's 6:15 at night, and that was literally just catching the rays that were coming in from the out the garage there. So that's going to be pretty good considering it's only 58 degrees outside right now. It's 90 degree difference. That is it for day 1. That is where I'm finishing. It is painted completely black. I'm going to have to figure out a way to seal it. This paint was not a sealer by any means, so The back I left the standard, plywood color. I'll figure something out with that. But day one's in the books. The frame is done, everything's cut, it's put together, and it is painted black. Tomorrow we will get back at it. Day 2 today. I woke up this morning and realized I needed to get some sort of all-weather paint on this, as it is going to be sitting outside with the elements. So I went and got some black exterior paint and a couple of paint brushes and painted the back of the panel as well as the sides. I also installed some pieces of a 2x4 in the middle right there, and there's one on the other end as well. That will act as just another place for the plexiglass to rest on. That way it has a spot where I can screw it in right here, and it'll rest right here, as opposed to having to span this entire gap here, which it would probably bow in the middle. So just another place to screw that into, and I will paint that black in the final paint job. So that's day 2 so far, and once this dries, I will start winding the hose. End of day 2, and here is where we are at. So the last clip, I just got done painting it. I finished painting front, back, and insides. They're all black. And then what I did is I drilled holes in the side here, in the middle, and in the side over there. And then I ran the tubing through. So each one of these spools is 100 feet of half-inch drip irrigation tubing is what it's called. So I uncoiled it, laid it all completely flat on here, and then I ran little eyelet screws on either side and put dowel rods in there to secure them in place. In the middle there's a half-inch to half-inch connector, a couple hose clamps. Should be nice and waterproof. So that is the semi-finished product. Water will come in one end, go out the other end. Tomorrow I'll do the plexiglass over the whole thing, do some silicone sealant on it, get the fittings on either end, and then we should be good to go. So that is 200 feet of tubing inside a 4x8 enclosure. Tomorrow we'll pick her back up. Day 3. Kind of got to looking at this last night and realized that there's a lot of real estate in the middle there that I could absolutely have some more tubing to run through it. Obviously, the more tubing you have, the more sun is going to hit the water. The longer the water stays in the pipe, the warmer it gets. So that's 100 feet of tubing. Went and got 50 feet more. So I'm going to do 50 more feet in each side, and then I'll check in and show you kind of what that looks like. I'm going to have to get a couple of little connectors like I've got up there to connect all this, but have enough room in there, and the dowel rods appear to be long enough. So quick modification, and then I'll show you what that looks like. Just got done adding the additional 50-foot rolls, and I think it actually fits really well. I did do the half-inch to half-inch connectors with a couple of hose clamps on there. The dowel rods are holding everything in place, so then I had to get some MacGyvering here on the ends to get the water going out. Standard hose connections, water coming in. I'm going to hook the water up to it and see if we have any leaks, and then I'll do kind of a quick test just to see what kind of temperature difference we're getting. It's a pretty darn cloudy day today. It's kind of passing clouds. Has some dark ones on the horizon there, so it's not going to be the best weather for heating this up, but I can tell you straight away, I just did the surface level thermometer on there, and it's about 110 degrees even in this kind of hit and miss cloud cover. So I think it looks pretty cool. I think that's about as much hose as I could fit on there. Of course, the dowel rods, I had to move those out to accommodate the rest of the hose, but there's still plenty of room in there, and yeah, I think it looks pretty nice. So time to hook up the water and see what happens. Fingers crossed. Now it's time to test and see if we have any sort of heat coming out of that right away. So Emma, come here, please. My trusty assistant Emma here. I just need you to hold that right there, Pumpkin. Okay, 2 hands. Hold it so I can see the screen. Just like that. Now,
cold.
I know it's cold. Turn that thing this way a little bit, Emma. All right, so the water coming out of the tap. "52 degrees, we'll call it. That is pretty cold water.
But it feels really good. So.
It's cold though. 51.8. That's our starting point.
That was it.
Nice job.
All
right, thank you, ladies.
It gets better. Like, it gets better over time. Like, I feel it warming up just a little bit.
Nice job.
I mean, it's
All right,
warm when
so
you do it
we
here.
just turned it on.
Yeah.
Water's dripping out right here, so that might be an O-ring,
It's cold right
which
now.
doesn't scare me too much. That's an easy fix. Emma, don't touch the wood with that water, okay? Water's flowing through here. I can hear it gurgling through all the hoses. Doesn't look like there's any water on this fitting. Good.
You can also hear it.
Yeah, you can hear it pushing through, huh? Emma, don't touch it, honey. Your hands are wet, please.
I mean, those things are hot.
I know.
What about the
Point.
water?
Okay, just stay back.
Should I go get the cup?
Lily, back off there, please, sweetie. I don't want you to get water everywhere. And please don't shake your hand on the contraption.
Rub it on my body. Should I go get the cup?
In just a minute, honey. Go ahead and give it just a little bit more water pressure, Emma. A little bit more.
It might not be going up there.
Well, I can hear it. It's coming through. That's a lot of tubing. Oh, I think we're getting close. Watch out, Lily. It's going to come out pretty quick.
I don't think I'll come through. Well, when the thing's done, we're going to start setting up our pool. Right, Dad?
You got it.
I can hear it.
It's been running for a few minutes now. The first water that came out of there was scalding hot. But now we've let it run for a bit. It has leveled off. And in the sun that we have right now, you can zoom in, about 58 degrees and some change, looks like. Maybe coming down just a little bit. 58.2. So we'll call it 58 degrees. So 52, 58, that's a 6-degree difference. Again, it's late afternoon. It's partly cloudy, I would say. And we still haven't sealed this box up yet. So I think 6 degrees of heat, given the current state of this thing, is pretty good. We'll get more sun. And the next step is to spray paint all of this black. So I did notice that the black paint was getting hotter than the black tubing. So I'm gonna make sure everything in here is sprayed black. Then we're going to put the glass over top, which will help to trap some of that heat in. So proof of concept works. You need to tighten up this fitting down here, but otherwise everything's looking good. Stay tuned. Day 4, and what I'm hoping will be the final day of this build. Today I'm going to install the plexiglass over the front and do some silicone work to try to shore up any gaps or any holes. So the first thing I'm going to do is test fit the 2 plexiglass pieces, which I've already done. I know they fit, but I'm just going to set them on there and then drill some pilot holes. And then I'll run a bead of silicone around the entire frame before I drop the plexiglass on top of it. So I'm going to set the glass on top, and then I will show you what that looks like. I also noticed, and I probably should have noticed this a lot earlier before I built, but a significant knot fell out of one of the 2x4s right here in the frame. So that's going to obviously leave an air gap. So that's going to need a little extra silicone, but obviously, you know, as you do some trial and error, you're going to have some errors, and that one was an error. So it'll be easy to fix though. Here we go. After I laid the plexiglass on here, I've got a couple more observations. First and foremost, I asked the guy at the hardware store to cut these pieces to be 4x4, and they're not. They're a little bit longer than they should be. So I've kind of rearranged them as best I could to find the best fit, and I still have a little bit of an overhang. You can see it right here on the edge. And I've also got an overhang over there. So either my framing isn't right, which is entirely possible, or these pieces are not 4x4. And when I measured them, they're just a shade too big, which is fine. So I'm just gonna have to make sure that I have some good sealant down there. I could try to trim these up, but in all honesty, for that tiny, little bit, I'm not really worried about it. These are never gonna be sitting perfectly up and down outside. They will always have a tilt to them. So as long as I keep a good bead of silicone in there, the water shouldn't pool up. The other observation is I'm really glad that I added these middle posts right here. That contact point is absolutely necessary to keep this plexiglass from bowing down in the middle. When I initially test fit this on here, it sagged really bad in the middle, and I was really worried that once the sun hits it, that would just completely melt in. So that was a definitely good addition. So what I'm going to do now is drill a couple of pilot holes in the corners, get this piece secured. That way I can easily align that piece back up. And then what I'll do is I will draw a bead of silicone around that frame, drop that sheet back down, and then screw it down. For screws, I have these really nice, these are called self-sealing drill screws. And they have a little foam pad on them. I don't know if you can see that. Come on, camera. They have a little foam pad on them, which will keep the metal from contacting the plexiglass. So yeah, I kind of like the way these look, and I definitely think it will help keep the plexiglass from splitting if I happen to over torque it just a little bit too much, which that's never the goal. So here we go. So right now is a good time to remind you that I am not a professional at any of this stuff. I'm not a carpenter or woodworker or even that smart when it comes to construction stuff. So that being said, it's important to remember that when I show you how badly I just screwed up this project. Now, I think a lot of videos out there would just edit this out and fix it, but I'm human, so here's how I screwed it up. I went into Home Depot looking for caulk or some sort of adhesive to seal the perimeters of this so that when I put the plexiglass on it, it would create a nice waterproof seal. I went down the caulk aisle, and this is where I'm not very smart in this stuff. Just thought, hey, you know what? If it's in a tube, it's caulk. And they had some liquid nails, heavy duty, on sale. So I bought a couple of them for what, $1 or $2 each. Could have swore it said white or I'm sorry, black or clear on the thing. Don't know why I would have bought tan, but anyways, ended up with tan liquid nails. So I said, you know what? It's been I've been at Home Depot so much lately, I'm not even gonna care. So I just put the tan on there and said, you know, whatever. And put the plexiglass on, and it immediately started to bow. Well, reading the back of the label, it says it's not recommended for plastic. So I took it off, and now I am in the process of wiping all of this down as best I can. I'll do a little black paint over it because thankfully I have some paint left over. But then I get the joy of using a scraper, getting all this gunk off of the plexiglass, which is not going to be a fun task. So that being said, learn from my mistakes and make sure that you get the right tools for your project. I'll show you what it looks like after I fix it. Cleaned up the mess as best I could. Repainted, I wiped off all the stuff on the edges here as best I could. And then used some of the black paint I had left over to touch it back up. So now it looks good again. Took a razor blade and did the best I could getting the gunk off the glass. So it's not going to be pristine by any means, but you know, nothing ever is. And finally got the right stuff here. High heat, 500 degree silicone sealant, clear, adheres to wood, metal, plastic, glass, human, whatever. Give that a try. This is it, the finished product. You can obviously see the remnants of my boo-boo with the tan caulk as opposed to just going clear, but you know, the clear silicone sealant on there bonded it really nice. So it's got a good waterproof tight hold. And then I went through with that same silicone sealant and hit every crack in the wood and everywhere that the water might get through. So this is exterior paint. All of the seams are caulked silicone, and that's it. So the next sunny day we get, I will get it out in the sun and see how it does. Also have the male and female hose adapters on the end, and I put a big old bucket of caulk in there as well. So we'll see how she does, but that's it. That's what it turned out to be. It's actually kind of a cool looking contraption if you get past the ugliness of my mistake on there, but I think it'll work pretty well, especially for about $200. Can't complain. This is it. It's a finished product. I just set the pool up for the very first time yesterday, and it's still filling. Still have a lot of work to do to make it look nice. However, I did bring the solar heater out. Made a couple of changes to it. So first and foremost, I did caulk all of the seams, so it is now watertight. But I also replaced the fittings up here. I had the hose fittings on there. I swapped them out for just a ½ to ½ inch with a couple of hose clamps, because when I test fit this, it was leaking. Just a tiny little drip, but obviously trying to keep all the water in your pool, that's kind of counterproductive. So it's running right now. I do notice that as this is heating up, it's only about 65 degrees outside right now, and obviously the water coming out of the pool is pretty cold, but the difference in temperature is causing some steam almost on the inside of the panels there. There is some condensation building up on the tubing. As the air temperature rises, that should help to remedy that. So let's do a test here and see how we're looking. So I bought a submersible pump. I think it's like 36 gallons per hour or 360 gallons per hour. I can't remember. But it is submersed down there. Let's check the temp. So the pool water right now, it is cold. I mean, it just came out of the hose yesterday, and you know, it's been filling today. Call it 58.8 degrees. 58.9 degrees, okay? All right, so 58.9. Let's go over and test the water coming out of the heater. So the water coming out of the heater right now, and this has been running for about 10 minutes, is 92.9, 93. It's still going up. So that is a 40-degree difference in the water temperature by cycling through the solar heater. So 93 degrees is pretty darn good, actually. I'm pretty impressed by that. And again, it's only about 65 degrees outside. So that is it's a really nice improvement. Man, that focus is terrible. There we go. So there you have it, folks. That is the final setup. I will probably put some legs on here as the season wears on and the sun starts to sink a little lower in the sky. That way I can prop that up if need be. But right now the sun is pretty much dead overhead, so that works out well. And yeah, 40-degree temperature difference. Really can't complain about that. So all for around 200 bucks. So cannot complain. That's it, folks. So the pool solar water heater is done, and it is working really well. I just checked it again. It's pushing 99 degrees out right now. As the sun gets higher in the sky, the day is warming up, it's getting hotter. It's really doing a good job of heating up that pool water. So hopefully you found this instructional or educational, and if you want to try to build one yourself, I'd say go for it. Just learn from my mistakes, read the labels on your caulk or whatever you're trying to put on there, but otherwise I think it's going to be great for you. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching.